Good evening, my friend. As this day comes to an end, and the gentle darkness wraps around us like a warm blanket, I want to invite you into a sacred space tonight. The golden light from your lamp creates a peaceful circle around you, and in this quiet moment, when the world finally slows down, we have an opportunity to do something transformative. Tonight, we're going to say 2 simple words that can change everything. Thank you, Lord. I'm sitting here by my window looking out at the star-filled sky, and I'm reminded of Psalm 136, verse 1. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever. You see, gratitude isn't just a nice feeling or polite gesture. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into holy ground. It turns our evening routine into a conversation with the Creator of the universe. Before we begin this journey together tonight, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Are you in your bedroom, perhaps sitting on the edge of your bed after a long day? Maybe you're in your living room finding these quiet moments before the house settles into sleep. Drop a comment below and let me know what city or country you're in. And if your heart needs this message tonight, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of evening prayer. Now let me take you on a journey of gratitude that will prepare your heart for the deepest, most peaceful sleep you've had in a long time. Let me take you back to the very first moment this morning when you opened your eyes. Do you remember that first breath? Most of us don't even think about it. But that breath, that simple intake of air, was God saying good morning to your soul. As I think about the day that's behind us now, I'm overwhelmed by the countless small gifts that we so often overlook. Picture this. You're standing in your kitchen this morning, perhaps still in your pajamas, and you wrap your hands around that warm coffee mug. Feel the heat seeping through the ceramic into your palms. See the steam rising up, creating little clouds that disappear into the morning air. That warmth, that comfort, that simple pleasure, it's a gift from Jehovah Jireh, our provider. Remember when the sunlight came streaming through your kitchen window? Maybe it hit the table just right, illuminating the wood grain. Or maybe it caught the water droplets on a glass, creating tiny rainbows. God painted that moment just for you. He knew you'd be standing there at that exact time, and He arranged the light and the angle and the timing to give you a moment of beauty. I think about Sarah, a single mother I know who works 2 jobs to support her 8-year-old son. Last Tuesday, she was running late for work, frantically searching for her favorite hair clip, the one her late mother had given her years ago. She was about to give up when her little boy appeared in the doorway, holding the clip with both hands, like it was made of gold. He'd found it under the couch cushions while looking for his toy car. Sarah told me later that when she took that clip from her son's small hands, she started crying. Not from frustration or being late, but from gratitude. In that moment, she saw God working through the smallest hands, through a child's innocent helpfulness. Sometimes, my friend, the Lord speaks to us through 8-year-old boys who just want to help their mama. And then there's Henry and Margaret, married for 57 years. They were sitting in that sterile hospital waiting room last week, his weathered hand holding her delicate one, both of them trying not to show how scared they were. When the doctor came out with the test results, when he smiled and said the words, "All clear," Margaret squeezed Henry's hand so tight he laughed. At 82 and 79, they're still finding reasons to thank God for another day together. Every breath we take, every heartbeat that keeps steady rhythm in our chest, every moment when our mind is clear and our memory serves us well. These are gifts. The colleague who made you laugh during your lunch break. The text message from an old friend who was thinking about you. The green light when you were running late, the parking spot that opened up just as you arrived. But tonight, as I sit here in the quiet, I realize that gratitude goes deeper than counting blessings. It's about recognizing the hand of God in the details of our lives, understanding that every good thing comes from above, and that even in our ordinary Tuesday afternoons, we are surrounded by evidence of divine love. Now, I need to be honest with you tonight, because gratitude isn't about pretending everything in life is perfect. It's not about putting on a happy face when your heart is breaking, or acting like pain doesn't exist. Real gratitude, the kind that transforms us, is big enough to hold our struggles too. Let me tell you about Mark. He's 38, father of 2 beautiful children, married to his college sweetheart. Last Tuesday, he cleaned out his desk at the office for the final time. After 12 years with the same company, he was laid off. That night, I imagine him lying in bed, staring at the ceiling while his wife and kids slept peacefully beside him. The mortgage payment is due in 2 weeks. The car needs new tires. His daughter needs money for her school trip. But you know what Mark told me? He said even in his fear, even with the weight of responsibility pressing down on his chest like a heavy blanket, he found himself grateful. Grateful for Lisa, his wife, who didn't panic when he told her the news. Grateful for healthy children who trust him completely. Grateful for 12 years of steady employment that many people never experience. And then there's Lisa, a different Lisa, a brilliant marketing director who just turned 41 last month. She has a corner office with a view of the city, a mortgage on a beautiful townhouse, and a career that most people would envy. But when she logs onto social media and sees another announcement about engagements, babies, family vacations, she feels the ache of what isn't. She's never been married. No children call her mom. Some evenings, she sits in her perfectly decorated living room and wonders if God forgot to write love into her story. But Lisa has learned something powerful. She's grateful for meaningful work that makes a difference. She's grateful for the freedom to travel, for the close friendships she's cultivated, for being the favorite aunt to 6 nephews and nieces who think she hung the moon. Her gratitude doesn't erase the longing, but it gives the longing a context, a framework of trust. I remember my own seasons of wondering if God had forgotten my address. There were nights when I lay awake calculating bills, wondering how we'd make it through another month. When my father's health began to decline, when my mother called with worry in her voice, when the medical bills started piling up like autumn leaves. Financial pressure has a way of making everything else look blurrier, doesn't it? But tonight, I'm learning something beautiful. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding God in the imperfect. It's about trusting that He sees the whole picture when we can only see our small corner of it. Romans 8:28 reminds us that all things work together for good, for those who love God. Not that all things are good, but that God can work them together for good. Jehovah Rapha, the God who heals, doesn't just heal our bodies. He heals our perspective. He heals our ability to see His hand, even in the difficult chapters. And sometimes, the deepest gratitude comes not from what we receive, but from what we're able to give, even when we feel like we don't have much to offer. As the night deepens around us, something beautiful begins to happen. The world slows down, but God seems to speed up His whispers. There's something about darkness that makes us more sensitive to the presence of the divine. It's as if when our physical eyes adjust to the dim light, our spiritual eyes become more acute. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a night shift nurse who works in the ICU at our local hospital. She's been doing this for 15 years, and she's seen miracles and heartbreak in equal measure. 3 weeks ago, she was caring for an 89-year-old man who'd been unconscious for 4 days. His family had gathered saying their goodbyes, and the doctors were gently preparing them for the end. At 3 in the morning, when the hospital hallways echo with a different kind of quiet, Jennifer found herself praying over this man she'd never met when he was awake. She prayed for peace for his family, for God's will to be done for this stranger who reminded her of her own grandfather. She told me later that she felt something in that room, a presence that was unmistakably holy. The next morning, he opened his eyes. Not only did he wake up, but he remembered his children's names, asked for his favorite breakfast, and started telling jokes by lunchtime. Jennifer said she's seen medical recoveries before, but this felt different. She felt angels in that room at 3 a.m., she told me. Sometimes God works his most profound miracles in the deep watches of the night. And then there's Tyler, a 17-year-old who's been struggling with depression for the past 2 years. The darkness in his mind had been so overwhelming that he'd started having thoughts of ending his pain permanently. One night last month, he couldn't sleep, so he decided to take a walk around his neighborhood. It was past midnight, and the streets were empty except for the occasional car passing by. As he walked, feeling utterly alone in the universe, he looked up and saw a shooting star streak across the sky. Now you might say that's just a meteorite burning up in the atmosphere, but Tyler felt something deeper. In that moment, he felt a sudden peace wash over him, a sense that he wasn't alone, that his life had purpose and meaning he couldn't yet see. That shooting star became God's way of writing hope across the night sky. I'll never forget my own encounter with God's presence in the darkness. 3 years ago, I sat in my car after my father's funeral. The parking lot at the funeral home was empty, and it was nearly midnight. I felt utterly alone, like I was floating in space with no connection to anything or anyone. The grief was so heavy I could barely breathe. Suddenly, I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was as if my father's presence was right there with me, as if love itself had taken on physical form. In that moment, I learned something that changed my understanding of death and life. Love doesn't die when bodies do. Love transcends the physical realm and continues in ways we can't fully understand. The night doesn't separate us from God's love. Psalm 139, verse 12, tells us that even the darkness is not dark to him, and the night is as bright as the day. When we can't see where we're going, he can see perfectly. When we feel lost in our circumstances, he knows exactly where we are. Jehovah Shalom, the God of peace, works while we sleep. He's arranging circumstances, preparing hearts, opening doors, and healing wounds, even when we're completely unaware. The darkness that sometimes feels like abandonment is actually the backdrop against which his light shines brightest. There's something powerful that happens when gratitude meets surrender, when thankfulness becomes the bridge that leads us to letting go. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the art of releasing control while holding on to faith about how saying thank you can actually teach us how to say, I trust you. Let me tell you about Maria, a 45-year-old divorced mother who's been fighting a custody battle for the past 2 years. The legal fees have drained her savings, the stress has affected her health, and the uncertainty has stolen her sleep. Every night she'd lie awake strategizing, planning her next move, rehearsing arguments in her head. But one night 3 weeks ago, something shifted. As she was praying, she found herself saying something unexpected. Thank you, God, for the strength you've given me to fight for my children. Thank you for showing me how strong I really am. And thank you that regardless of what happens in court, you love my children even more than I do. In that moment of gratitude, she felt her white-knuckled grip on the outcome begin to loosen. The next week, her ex-husband's lawyer called with an unexpected proposal for shared custody that was more generous than anything they'd previously offered. Maria believes her gratitude didn't change her circumstances as much as it changed her heart. And that change of heart created space for a miracle she'd been too anxious to receive. Then there's William, 73 years old, recently diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. His biggest fear isn't death, it's forgetting. You see, his beloved wife Eleanor passed away 2 years ago, and his memories of their 43 years together are his most precious possessions. The thought of losing those memories feels like losing her all over again. But William has learned something beautiful about gratitude and surrender. instead of spending his remaining clear days anxious about what he might forget. He spends them thankful for what he remembers. Every morning when he wakes up and can still picture Eleanor's smile, he says, "Thank you." Every time he recalls their first dance their wedding day, the way she laughed at his terrible jokes, he treats it as a gift from God. "Every day I remember her smile as a gift," he told me. "I used to think I had to hold on to these memories by force, but now I'm learning to receive them with gratitude. If God gave them to me, once I can trust him with them now." And then there's Roberto, who owns a small construction company that employs 15 people. The recession hit his business hard, and he's been watching the numbers drop month after month. These aren't just employees to him. They're friends, people with families who depend on their paychecks, people who've worked beside him for years. The night he was considering bankruptcy, Roberto found himself unable to sleep. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. How could he look these men in the eye and tell them he'd failed them? But as he prayed, he found himself thanking God for the opportunity to provide for these families, for the years they'd worked together successfully, for the trust they'd placed in him. In that moment of gratitude, instead of feeling like a failure, he felt honored to have been given such a responsibility. A week later, an unexpected contract came through a project that would keep them busy for 6 months and help them weather the economic storm. I used to think surrender meant giving up, waving the white flag of defeat. Now I understand that surrender means giving over. It's the difference between throwing in the towel and placing our burdens in hands that are infinitely more capable than ours. Tonight, as I pray, I find myself saying, "Lord, I place my worries at your feet like evening offerings. I place my need for control on your altar. I place my fear about tomorrow into your hands that hold all of time." 1 Peter 5:7 reminds us to cast all our anxieties on him because he cares for us. In the space where worry used to live, gratitude grows. In the soil where anxiety once took root, trust begins to bloom. This isn't positive thinking. This is sacred thinking. This is learning to see our lives from God's perspective instead of just our own. This is where the miracle happens. Quietly, gently, like dawn breaking over a sleeping world. As gratitude fills the spaces where worry used to live. Something beautiful begins to occur. Your tight shoulders start to relax. Your breath becomes deeper, more natural. The racing thoughts that have been running laps in your mind begin to slow down like snow settling on a quiet field. Let me tell you about Emma, a college sophomore in the middle of finals week. For 3 days, she'd been living on coffee and anxiety, her mind spinning with everything she needed to study, every grade that mattered for her future. The panic attack started on Tuesday, that feeling like she couldn't catch her breath, like the walls were closing in. That's when her grandmother shared something with her. "Honey," she said, "let me teach you something I learned during the hardest season of my life. It's called gratitude breathing." She taught Emma to breathe in slowly while saying, "Thank you for this moment," and breathe out while saying, "I trust you with tomorrow." Emma practiced this sitting on her dorm room bed, surrounded by textbooks and highlighters. With each grateful breath, she felt the knot in her chest loosen just a little. The anxiety didn't disappear completely, but it transformed into something manageable. She told me later, "I found a peace I hadn't felt in months right there in the middle of my chaos." And then there's Michael, a veteran, who served 2 tours overseas and came home carrying invisible wounds. For 12 years, the nightmares came nearly every night. Flashbacks that made normal life feel impossible. The therapist he finally agreed to see suggested something that seemed almost too simple. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every night before bed. Michael was skeptical. How could gratitude help with trauma that ran soul deep? But he was desperate enough to try anything. The first night he wrote, "Grateful I made it home. Grateful for hot coffee. Grateful for my dog, Max." Simple things, small things, but they were true. Slowly, night by night, something shifted. Small gratitudes became stepping stones to healing, he told me. I started to see that even in the darkest chapters of my life, there were pinpoints of light, and those pinpoints started connecting, creating a map back to hope. Then there's Patricia, a working mother, juggling a demanding career, and 3 children under the age of 10. Every day felt like she was running a marathon while balancing plates, and the constant guilt was exhausting. Guilt that she wasn't spending enough time with her kids. Guilt that she wasn't giving her best at work. Guilt that she couldn't be the perfect wife she thought she should be. A friend suggested she try something radical instead of focusing on everything she wasn't doing well enough. What if she thanked God for the energy she did have, for the laughter that filled her house every evening, for children healthy enough to create chaos, for a job that provided for their needs? Gratitude didn't change my circumstances, Patricia explained to me. My schedule is still crazy, and I still feel stretched thin most days. But gratitude changed my heart. Instead of feeling like I was failing at everything, I started to see that I was actually succeeding at love. Scientists tell us that grateful brains literally rewire themselves, creating new neural pathways that make happiness and peace more accessible. But I know something deeper than neuroscience. Grateful hearts connect with God's heart. When we align our thoughts with thanksgiving, we align ourselves with the very nature of our Creator, who is Himself the source of every good gift. As I sit here tonight, I can feel it happening in my own body. My chest feels lighter, like I've been holding my breath for hours, and finally remembered how to exhale. My shoulders drop away from my ears. My jaw unclenches. This isn't just positive thinking. This is holy thinking. This is what happens when we stop trying to figure everything out and start trusting the one who already has. Philippians 4, 6, and 7 tells us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." You are the God who transforms hearts, while we sleep, Jehovah Shammah, the Lord who is present, especially in our peace. Isaiah 26:3 promises, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." Tonight, Lord, I choose gratitude over worry. I choose trust over control. I choose rest over restlessness. As I prepare to lay my head on my pillow, I want to release everything into your capable hands. While I sleep, you are working. While I rest, you are preparing. While I dream, you are answering prayers I haven't even prayed yet. You see tomorrow's challenges, and you've already prepared tomorrow's grace. You know what I'll need before I need it, and you're arranging circumstances for my good, even now. Thank you, Father, for this day's joys and sorrows, for its victories and its struggles. Thank you for bringing me safely to this moment, for sustaining me through every hour, for the breath in my lungs and the beat of my heart. Thank you for loving me not because of what I accomplish, but simply because I am yours. Thank you for the people who crossed my path today, for the opportunities to serve, for the moments of beauty that caught me by surprise. Thank you for indoor plumbing and clean water for electricity and warm beds for simple pleasures that billions of people throughout history could never imagine. Thank you for tomorrow's mercies already prepared and waiting for me, like gifts under a tree. Thank you that your love never runs out, that your patience never wears thin, that your plans for me are good, even when I can't see how. I remember Psalm 127, verse 2. He gives his beloved sleep. Tonight, I receive that gift with grateful hands. Your heartbeat is God's lullaby, playing softly in the background of creation. Your breath is prayer without words, a constant communion with the source of life. Your sleep is trust in action, faith made visible. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be peaceful, and your awakening be filled with hope. May angels guard your rest, and may you wake refreshed, knowing that you are loved beyond measure. Before you close your eyes tonight, I want to ask you, what are you most grateful for as this day comes to an end? Share it in the comments below. Your gratitude might be exactly what someone else needs to read. And if this prayer brought peace to your heart, please like this video and subscribe so we can continue these evening conversations together. Share this with someone who needs to remember how loved they are. Thank you for spending these moments with me, for allowing me into your evening routine, for creating space for gratitude and prayer. Rest well, my friend. God is keeping watch, and all is well.